Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, I know you guys have been waiting a while to see this one, right? I know maybe some of you were hoping to see it during the preseason games to get some action in with a different quarterback. Well, here you guys go. Taylor Heinicke, the once great Washington Commander, the recent Atlanta Falcon, is coming to the Chargers via trade with Atlanta this last day. Last 24 hours have been crazy, dudes. This is a new era. We live in a new time. Chargers fans of old, right, that have been with Tom Telesco the past decade, things are changing, dude. This is a completely fresh and new strategy and perspective that we're seeing to the team build, which is absolutely so exciting. I know there's a lot of Chargers fans out there, shocked to see this, exciting to see this, but more so relieved to see that the team is taking those necessary steps, sometimes baby steps, in cases of like a position of QB2, to just simply make the team better and take those steps that feel a little obvious to us as fans, right? It feels like finally the era is turning over, and it's opening up a lot of possibilities for excitement in the future as Joe Hortize and Jim Harbaugh continue to get to work. So today's video is going to be going over the Taylor Heinicke trade. We have another trade in Elijah Molden that we have to cover as well as what it means for the rest of the team, details of those trades, and what we could be looking at in terms of future moves here very soon. Before we do kick things off, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $1,000. They hooked us up, baby. Definitely a great way to support the channel. Have some fun along the way. And newcomers, definitely take advantage of this, man. You guys are getting free picks right now with Underdog Fantasy, and that's my favorite mode by far on here, the pick'ems. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take, hit the like, sub, bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history!
Breaking news, well, kinda, happened yesterday. The Chargers make a couple of trades here. Just after roster cuts, we're getting ready for kickoff in 1 week's time. So excited. We got college football tonight too, baby. It's good to be back. Either way, let's report on some of the happenings inside the Chargers organization. First off, let's go over a little bit of the details here. Chargers get themselves a very capable quarterback too in the building. Now, again, this is kind of my perspective on the whole thing, okay? During the preseason, you take a look at your quarterback, too, and some of the depth guys on the squad, and you think to yourself, okay, maybe QB2 isn't the biggest need on the squad because, let's say, again, knock on wood, we need to call up on that position. We're probably pretty screwed anyway, right? Whether it be Easton Stick or whoever back there. However, there are conversations to be had that a Chargers team that could be more of a contender this season, that's being built more in the image of contending teams like the Baltimore Ravens, will care about backup positions like quarterback, like offensive line, which has become a huge point of emphasis for the team, like edge, we have probably the deepest, most impressive edge group in the NFL. I think it's more about culture, team build, and philosophy than it is about, if we use a QB2, we're screwed anyway. Well, I'll tell you this right now. I feel way better if the Chargers are put in a similar situation like they were late last season where QB2's out there slinging it. I feel way better about this team's odds to survive a handful of games without Justin Herbert than I did just a couple of days ago. And again, no slight to Easton Stick, the person, man. We saw, I think it was Brendan Rice. He was out on Twitter saying, he doesn't like seeing the Easton Stick slander. Let's all give the guy a break. And I completely agree, man. Easton Stick, the person, this is his job. He's a great dude. He's a leader. I'm sure he's a great team player. This is definitely a sensitive situation for someone who's fighting for the job. However, it also does need to be acknowledged that the regression did hit. We did see a huge dip in performance in the preseason, which likely did end up resulting in the Chargers pursuing a better upgrade at QB2. Even if, a guy like Taylor Heinicke isn't peak QB2, this certainly is a huge upgrade over what we had just a couple of days ago. And again, to kind of paint an even clearer picture here, Easton Stick, I think I went through and I looked it up. It was either bottom 3 or the very worst graded quarterback in the entirety of the NFL during the preseason games. That is pretty tough to hear, man. Pretty tough to see, and honestly one that doesn't shock me too much. It was really hard for the Chargers offense to get anything going, and ultimately it made me a little upset that we didn't get to see quite the sample size I was hoping of the offense during that time, which, was resulting in a lot of jobs being won or lost. It's important. It's important that your QB2 is out there supporting your QB1 and Justin Herbert, as well as giving quality reps to the backups and the second team. So that everybody's good and ready and staying frosty, right, for whatever trials may up and come, okay? So first off, QB2, Easton Stick out, Taylor Heinicke in. We're probably going to see Easton Stick stay on the roster for at least a couple of weeks as we see, Taylor Heinicke settle into the position. But either way, this is going to be the long-term likely future of QB2 for the 2024 season, and it's a really good one, man. First off, details. What did we give up? Because this was a trade. This wasn't a pickup. This wasn't, a free agent signing. This was the Chargers going out there and making a move to better their team, and it did involve a trade. The Chargers will give up a conditional 2025 6th-round pick, which in reality, it's a 7th-round pick, and if Taylor Heinicke sees playing time, it can be elevated to a 6th-round pick. Either way, them's a small bananas in terms of compensation, right? I'm a big fan of using picks that way. Very rarely are you going to see players like, again, a special season with Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard. This last season, one of our 7th-round picks didn't even make the roster. I kind of like maneuvering those picks to strengthen other positions where, you're going to get a solid QB2 in Taylor Heinicke, who's proven and capable, and you know what you're getting in him at the NFL level, rather than going after a Max Duggan in the 7th round, where you're taking a shot, you're hoping for a QB2 of the future, but ultimately a lot of those guys are not going to be playing anywhere close to the level of a guy like Taylor Heinicke. So I'm all about moves like that, man. Secondly, Taylor Heinicke does signal something you love to see about a team and where they view themselves going forward. Now, it feels like the Chargers of old put so much on the Justin Herbert shoulders that if he were to go down, right, it's basically over. And I kind of explained this at the top of the video. And they were really okay with rolling in that way. The Chargers have built themselves a team that can support a quarterback in a way that if Taylor Heinicke were to have to go out there and play, you got yourself an offense that's going to keep a Taylor Heinicke above water. What I mean by that is we're going to have a really strong run game. We're going to have help from the defense finally. The passing game is going to be composed of, a lot of, easy plays, maybe underneath RPOs, play action. It feels like a guy like Taylor Heinicke can take the reins there if necessary and thrive because of the offense that we have out here all of a sudden. Easton Stick, despite a lot of that help, proved that the regression was just too much, and it was not worth keeping him on the roster when you can actually have somebody who can operate an offense, kind of like what other teams see in Tyrod Taylor, right? A game manager, right? It feels like we got a bit better of a game manager in Taylor Heinicke, more of a gunslinger, I'll be honest there. But one that can certainly operate the offense and give us a much better quality of play at quarterback in a backup role, as well as a guy, in training camp, or I should say in camp, in a practice, playing with the twos. All right. So, hello, quarterback 2 of the future. Let's take a quick look at what to expect from him as a quarterback. Now, again, don't go nuts. Okay. This is a backup quarterback. He had his day in the sun a couple of seasons ago playing for the Washington Commanders, in which I was pretty happy with him back then. I think I was in one league using a quarterback flex strategy in which I kind of signed a quarterback every single week. Kind of tried to follow the strength of schedule a little bit because I did not draft a quarterback very high. And then in another league, I for sure in 2021, I'm pretty certain that I had Terry McLaurin. And as soon as we saw a quarterback switch over from Heinicke or to Heinicke, I know Taylor McLaurin had himself a lot better of a time in fantasy football. Lucky enough for me, I was playing with some of the Washington players back then to have a proper recollection of what Taylor Heinicke was as a starting quarterback in the league at that point, because at that point in 2021, he was out there for 16 games and he looked honestly pretty dang good. Again, when you stack him up against other starting quarterbacks in the NFL, you might say to yourself, director, we could do a lot better. Okay, let's actually make this a little bigger here. We could do a little bit better, right? The biggest number I think that people would be worried about is the 20 touchdowns to 15 interceptions, the 12 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, right? The interception number can be a little bit high at times, but he's a risk taker. He's going to go out there and he's going to take some shots and utilize his offense and trust in his weapons, and it kind of does reflect in the passing numbers here a little bit. 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He was a more than capable quarterback, in my opinion, in that season than what people give him credit for. And in a backup role, right, playing 9 games in 2022 and then 5 games in 2023, I think he's been pretty solid, man. Of course, you'd like to see this number a little bit higher in 2023, but I mean, 890 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You'd stack it up against what Easton Stick was doing out there in terms of, especially pacing and trying to win a game. I think Taylor Heinicke is a clearer choice right now. Okay, so again, in terms of the stats, don't go crazy about it. It's a backup quarterback role for a reason, but it is a massive upgrade. He's not going to be the biggest, best, backup quarterback in the NFL. He's not the next, Nick Foles out here, but he is certainly a big upgrade over what we had. Okay. Some of the other things I like about Taylor Heinicke before we move on to some of the other news here. Heinicke does still maintain one of the biggest strengths that Easton Stick had at QB2, and that's mobility. Heinicke is sneaky quick, right? He logged 124 yards and a touchdown on the ground in 5 games last season. A high of 313 yards and a touchdown in 2021. The dude's got some mobility to his game similar to a Justin Herbert that can be utilized by the coaching staff that certainly is going to have that in their plans this season. I know a lot of people are dismissing the fact that the Chargers are going to run with their quarterback because of the plantar fascia or whatever that Justin Herbert suffered, or fasciitis. Honestly, dudes, when you take a look at the injury, you take a look at Justin Herbert, you take a look at the precautions that Jim Harbaugh and Ben Herbert have been practicing over the season, I don't think that's off the table. I think a mobile quarterback is very much so important to the offense and the system of Greg Roman and what they're trying to adapt a little bit from Baltimore. I'm not going to say he's Lamar Jackson. Absolutely not. But a little bit of mobility to the flair and flavor of like a Patrick Mahomes certainly is something I think the Chargers want to try and maintain this season, or at least create in this offense this season. And I think that's important in their backup choices as well. Taylor Heinicke does have that mobility. Again, he's a capable passer. He's accurate, but willing to take risks and sling it, when necessary, try to win games. I don't know. I like it. Again, it has resulted in higher turnover numbers than you would like, but he also has resulted himself some nice big plays too, and he's going to have a nice offense to support that. And the last thing that in many instances would be considered a weakness, I'm going to say is a strength. The dude is a veteran, all right? Justin Herbert does thrive when he's got a veteran in the quarterback room. Of course, we've seen it recently in the past. Tyrod Taylor was definitely a great mentor for him. We want to see that, level of support with Justin Herbert wherever you can get it. And Taylor Heinicke, he's seen some success. I have to assume that he's going to be a good leader out there. I hear that he's a great character. It's something that I'm certainly in support of in this decision. All right. But that's not it in terms of news for quarterback 2, okay? Certainly, if that were it right there, we say, hey, Taylor Heinicke, QB2, Chargers nailed it, right? We got a good one in the QB room all of a sudden. I'm certainly happy with that, man. Yesterday, that was the reality, and I was like, cool, we're good, we're set, let's rock and roll for the season. Well, another bit of news did drop earlier today from the Cleveland Browns, which were looking to make a move yesterday. It looks like they waited till today. They released Tyler Huntley from their roster. They were rostering, I think, 4 quarterbacks at the time. They released Tyler Huntley, the Utah legend, and the man with the plan in Baltimore just a couple of seasons ago with Joe Hortize. This man is now a free agent, and I think it thickens the plot a little bit. I don't know if it changes the course for the Chargers too aggressively, but it's an option now that needs to be looked at. Tyler Huntley, to me, is one of the more capable backup quarterbacks in the league. As a matter of fact, if you weighed him up against Taylor Heinicke, I kind of lean a little bit towards Tyler Huntley. Now, Huntley I think is good for different reasons, right? The mobility is certainly a huge jump, for him. The accuracy can be at times, but, you're looking at a couple of different scenarios at quarterback, and Heinicke has his strengths in terms of, I would say, winning football games. Familiarity, though, and stuff like that definitely goes to Tyler Huntley. And Huntley has to still be on the table for the Chargers as another competitor to bring in on this team. Again, we did trade a late round pick to the Atlanta Falcons, which is going to incentivize the Chargers to stick with Taylor Heinicke, which, again, solid move. I'm completely happy with that. But I think it would be wise of this team to also sign on Tyler Huntley and see what happens in that quarterback room over the course of the next couple of weeks. Maybe roster 3 of them, because there's a new rule, right? Again, I'm so unprepared for this, and I do apologize. There is a new rule about rostering 3 quarterbacks, one of them not counting versus the 53-man roster. If that's the case, dude, let's go. Let's sign this man. Keep Taylor Heinicke at QB2. You can keep Easton Stick on the practice squad if you want. But if we have the capability of rostering 3 quarterbacks with no consequence to the 53-man roster, get Tyler Huntley on this squad. Please and thank you. Okay? I would be very much so in support of this. Again, he's an ex Cleveland Brown, but I grabbed a photo of him from the Baltimore Ravens days to show you his familiarity with the team and what he can bring in terms of a backup quarterback role. I really like that option for the Chargers. All right. Now, what does all of this mean? This is probably my favorite segment in this entire video, one that's going to get maybe overlooked. Everyone's looking for the news, the breaking news, like, what does he stack up against, Easton Stick? What do the stats look like? Yada, yada, yada. I think the biggest thing to take away from the Taylor Heinicke, Tyler Huntley, Taylor Heinicke. We got to figure this out, man. It's going to be a confusing quarterback room if both of them are on the roster by kickoff. The biggest thing to take away, at least from my perspective, is the new Joe Hortize movement. This is something fresh, exciting, and ultimately leans on the principles of common sense that Chargers fans can come to expect from their roster construction going forward. I cannot tell you how many times as a Chargers fan over the last decade that we signed somebody, that we're working somebody out, that we're trying to figure out how to, build the depth on this team, and it's just full of names that I have never heard of, or guys that, have an opportunity to be signed by the Chargers that makes so much sense, end up signing somewhere else for nothing, right? The linebackers are a great example of that. There's defensive backs I've seen, that would have fit so well with the Chargers. I think every single year in the Tom Telesco era, I felt like we could have done better in terms of depth, especially, but roster construction in terms of free agency and the bottom part of the roster, which can very much so be important too, just did not receive a lot of attention. It feels like Tom Telesco, he would draft a lot of projects, right? You would get guys in there in the 3rd, 5th, 4th round that he refused to part ways with, because we spent draft capital. It might look bad, if we had to cut this guy or that guy. I drafted him a little bit high. The Chargers are not thinking that way, right? Isaiah Spiller got cut. Sure, he's back on the practice squad, which is great, but he was a 4th round pick, right? He got beat out by Jarrett Patterson. Jarrett Patterson now exiting the roster with another move by the Chargers in free agency, which we'll go over in just a second. The Chargers don't care. They want the best competitors at every single position, whether it be backup quarterback, whether it be depth running back, whether it be backup offensive line, defense, whatever. And I love this. The new Joe Hortize is listening movement feels real and alive and exciting to be a spectator of, because finally, so many of the moves where you think, Dadoy, it's common sense, right? We're starting to make those moves. And I think I got the first indication and preview of that during the draft. Of course, everyone's crazy about Malik Neighbors, but when we drafted Joe Alt, I was like, it is still obvious, right? It's not what everybody wanted, but it's a very obvious pick. It's a strong pick. It's not J.C. Latham. It may have been J.C. Latham if it was Tom Telesco and those days. Oh, he's a right tackle. He's the best one in the draft. We're going to take him, of course. No. Latham, although I think he can be a great player, is nowhere near the status of a guy like Joe Alt in terms of the mobility, in terms of just everything that he brings to the position. And seeing that was exciting. But then you get into rounds 2. Ladd McConkey with the trade up. Let's go. We don't trade up very often in the draft. We go get a guy that I was absolutely in love with at that point of the draft process. In round 3, Junior Colson's there. Absolutely no thought to taking him. Sure, there was a couple of different moves where I was like, I'm not quite sure. There's some other guys out there that we're hoping to see. But the draft, for a large majority of it, felt like, hey, dude, like, we rolled with the punches, man. We got BPA all over the roster. I feel good. You know what I mean? And then you hit free agency. And you hit, different parts of the offseason where you're building the roster. You have a lot of limited resources, at your disposal because of the money situation they were put in at the top of the season. And you just see Joe, again, rolling with the punches, bringing in dudes to compete. Some guys work out like Christian Fulton. Bravo, right? Bravo. And then other guys don't work out like Alex Leatherwood. You're like, you know what? At least we tried. That is something that I'm not used to seeing as a Chargers fan. It's a whole new ball game out here. So if anything, the Taylor Heinicke signing is more of a signal of good times to come and common sense finally being exercised in roster construction than it is, hey, yay, how do you do? We got ourselves a QB2. That's cool, but what it indicates in terms of philosophy and team building gets me pumped. It's a whole new ball game. And meanwhile, in the background, here's another picture of Ortiz, and we're gonna squeeze Jim down here a little bit. There you go. This is about Ortiz, or Hortiz. Meanwhile, in the background, you got this beautiful thing starting, and it's rolling, and it's been moving, man. It's been slowly accumulating over this last season. The comp pick formula. Because you think to yourself, me personally, I love using those late round picks to pick up guys again, like I said, like Taylor Heinicke, and we're going to talk about Elijah Molden here in just a second. I love that strategy. Like, why not use that pick that more often than not whiffs on someone that is going to contribute on a depth level, right? Let's do it. Right? I like that. Meanwhile, in the background, you got this man pumping out the golden goose of 7th and 6th round picks in a compensatory pick formula. The Ravens, their cup overfloweth every single season when it comes to extra picks in rounds 3 to 6, or 3 to 7, excuse me. And it's not uncommon for a Joe Hortiz or Baltimore Ravens organization to exercise those extra picks in trades, in trading up in the draft, in trading for depth, in sweetening up a deal for another trade here or there. Like, I love that. And so in regards of what we gave up, a conditional 6 in 2025, I already know we're going to have another 6th-round pick next year, due to the compensatory pick formula. But watch out, man. It's a new world. And I don't think he's done. I think we're going to see 1 or 2 more moves before kickoff. I think the team is going to be contenders, or at least players in the trade deadline, arena in November, right? I think in and around that time when the trade deadline is looming, I think the Chargers may be more legitimate players in that time to acquire some talent, especially if they are contenders at that time, which at this point, via the roster build, the culture shift, the Harbaugh, and most certainly the schedule, the strength of schedule is so much so in our favor. It's ridiculous. I think we might be in a position to continue this new Joe Hortiz thing, man. And to put it in perspective for you guys, I saw this on Twitter. I hope I'm getting it accurate. Again, the top of my brain, sorry. Joe Hortiz with 2 trades now in his first preseason, environment. Let's say August, right? In the first preseason with 2 trades. Outpaces Tom Telesco, who made 1 trade in 11 seasons with the Chargers in the preseason. How nuts is that? Whole new ball game, baby. Whole new ball game. All right, next up, Chargers also made another move, right? 2 trades. Their first trade, Taylor Heinicke. Second trade, Elijah Molden. And boy, dudes, this dude is a Charger, right? For one, another Titan, which is interesting. There's connections there, right? But what does an Elijah Molden trade mean? First off, what did we give up for him? Guess what? Get this. A 2026 7th-round pick. Not even next season. The season after that. By that time, we're going to have 12 compensatory 7th-round picks. We won't even remember this one. Oh, dude, Elijah Molden. So we get him for nothing, right? Which is fantastic. Sure, let's go to his stats real quick. Sure, he's not like the league leading nickelback, the leading free safety or whatever, but he's more than capable, right? I saw some awesome plays by him even recently. Last season he got the forced fumble, which he recovered. He got the interception. He's pretty dang good in coverage, but the big thing that the stats aren't going to show you is exactly how I'm going to describe Elijah Molden to you guys. This dude reminds me a little bit of Alohi Gilman, right? Tough, physical, run support, free safety. It's kind of how I look at him. But you can't even label him like that. This is a DB by definition. Because this man, very, very good at safety and in the nickel. And the Chargers and what Jesse Minter is trying to accomplish this season, and the style of defense that he's going to be running, that's very, very nickel blitz heavy, that's very heavy in terms of moving around Derwin James. A talent like Elijah Molden is such a good pickup. I could scream. It's honestly one that, you don't see coming, because oftentimes trades could be anybody. You often have your attention focused on, free agent acquisitions in the draft. But this is such an intelligent move, man. Like, getting Elijah Molden for nothing and being able to plug him in there as a backup safety to Alohi Gilman, Derwin James, that's going to see, 2 or 3 safeties on the field a lot, and a guy that needs experience in terms of a blitzer, in terms of physicality and run support. I am very much so in favor of this trade. This is a really good trade, man. And again, I should have grabbed his PFF score, because I know that he's not terrible in coverage either. He could be awesome. He could be a very good position, or in a very good position to elevate himself with this squad and become actually like a contributing factor in the pass rush. Because I think he's going to be blitzing a lot with this team. He's very physical, and again, he's got some nice speed to him too. This is a really fast defensive back that can be utilized as a jack of all trades, master of none. He's very versatile. You can play him up high. You can play him in the nickel. You can play him wherever. And it just shows the amount of attention being paid to Jesse Minter and what he wants to build on this defense. This is a perfect fit. Okay? Help wrap up this video, because I got to get my kid from school. Remembering the Titans. Okay? The Chargers were not done. They have made several more moves. Another one being the signing of a Hassan Haskins from the Tennessee Titans, which again is nuts. Elijah Molden, we got Tier Tart earlier, Hassan Haskins, who, let's be honest, the Tennessee Titans link is something that needs to be paid attention to all of a sudden, but also a Michigan alumni coached by Jim Harbaugh just a few seasons ago. This is also a fantastic ad, and one that I think is fueled by the need of more special teams help. I know that the Chargers just lost Nick Neiman, who's on IR at this point. I don't know when he's expected to return. I think it's after week 4. But at that point, we probably want to bring in another special teams expert, and Hassan Haskins is actually really good in that department, while also being a really nice fit on offense in terms of what running backs are asked to do with Greg Roman. This guy is a beast in the inside the 5. This guy is hard nosed. This guy is special teams contributor. Like, it feels like a nice fit, just not just for special teams, but as a backup running back. Sure, I do think it did kick Jarrett Patterson off the roster, which sucks, because I thought he had a really good preseason. But Hassan Haskins is another pretty great signing that, again, how many new players do we have on this squad in the last week? Way more than I can ever remember in the Tom Telesco era. All right. And while we're remembering the Titans, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know how people are going to react to it, because I don't know how I feel about it. While we're at it, right, and bringing in Elijah Molden and bringing in Christian Fulton, in bringing in Tier Tart and Hassan Haskins, why don't we just go rescue Caleb Farley while we're at it, the former first-round pick that cannot stay on the field, right? He's been suffering with injuries for the longest time. See if we can even get him on the practice squad, see how he feels, see if the injury improves, see what happens when you get him in the same building with Ben Herbert. I'm kind of about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of about that move. Let's bring the Titans, at least some of the best ones that they've had in the last 5-6 years. Let's bring them together and see what happens when under the new Chargers banner, because right now every single Titan that's entered the Bolt, that's entered the Chargers facility from the Titans, has gotten considerably better. Now, we don't have a lot of tape on some other guys like Hassan Haskins and Elijah Molden yet, but Tier Tart has looked amazing in the preseason. Christian Fulton looks like a reinvented version of himself. Why not take a shot on the former first-round pick that has some of the craziest speed and length you can find at the position? I'm in on it, baby. Finally, to wrap this video up, a couple of moves that I think Chargers fans were freaking out a little bit about. Tony Jefferson was cut to make room for some of these signings. Don't worry, he was signed back to the practice squad. You see this exercised a lot with the Chargers, where they'll put some of the veterans on the practice squad, elevating them as they need them through the season. This is one where I think Tony Jefferson, who played absolutely out of his mind in the preseason, will be signed again sometime in the first couple of weeks of the regular season. All right. We got Tremont Morris Brash back as well. He was another fan favorite. And then, of course, Isaiah Spiller, among other names, filling in what's a pretty impressive practice squad all of a sudden. All right. But praise be Harbaugh. Praise be Joe Hortize. Praise be the Chargers at this point, man, because it looks like a new team, a new squad, a new a foundation ready to rock and roll, and it goes beyond a couple of different, philosophies, right? I'm so excited that this team's identity is new and fresh and intimidating for the first time in a long time. Being that run balance or run heavy team really does give us a strong feeling of who we are as a football team right now, and what to expect going forward. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see these new things implemented, installed, and ultimately look like they're going to work. Very excited. And Joe Hortize bringing in the new, the freshness, the exercising of common sense, all of it very, very exciting. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's go, Heinicke! Taylor Huntley, though, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a competition in the next couple of days, too.